I am Daniela Bas, Director of the Division for Social Policy and Development at the Department for Economic and Social Affairs in New York, and I joined the system 2 years ago. It is my pleasure to make an intervention at the opening of this very important workshop on measuring social public policies, inclusiveness and impact. It is my regret that I'm not able to participate in person, but this video link has provided me an opportunity to meet you all this morning. I assure you that I'll be with you in spirit throughout the workshop. The workshop today is very timely and relevant, especially in view of the two major events we had, and I'm referring to Rio+20 conference last year and the preparation for the post-MDGs development agenda. I think that something has to be changed. The global economic and financial crisis in 2008-2009 and its negative impacts made people around the world recognize the importance of social policy and of the environment. Economic growth alone does not reduce poverty or inequality. In fact, inequality between the rich and the poor are expanding across regions. As you are all aware, people in the middle class have been experiencing a sense that they might be falling into poverty. In fact, some of them did. Youth unemployment remains persistently high. Some young people, in spite of good educational backgrounds, won't be able to find adequate jobs, and many are unemployed or underemployed. Now, this workshop, I believe, will address structural causes of all these issues and can come up with new approaches towards social development, that is, to design a more holistic and integrated approach to reduce poverty and inequality, to promote social inclusion and cohesion, and productive employment and decent jobs. And it is my hope that this workshop will produce tangible results, which could be an important contribution to the 52nd session of the Commission for Social Development to be held in February next year in New York. So, dear participants and dear colleagues, as said, I was not here at the time of the expert group meeting our division organized in 2007 in collaboration with UNESCO on creating an inclusive society with practical strategies to promote social integration. However, I'm very well aware that one of the direct outcomes of that EGM and this EGM I'm referring to was the DESA publication on analyzing and measuring social inclusion in a global context. And the publication was disseminated among member states during the second commission in its 48th session. Now, this EGM, together with the subsequent initiatives, also led to the adoption of the groundbreaking resolution on promoting social integration. And more recently, just this February 2013, the Commission for Social Development has taken up the priority theme of promoting empowerment of people in achieving poverty eradication, social integration, and full employment and decent work for all. Now, the Commission had two high-level panel discussions, one on the priority theme empowerment and the other one on emerging issues. And the theme of the emerging issue was the social dimension in the global development agenda beyond 2015. So I encourage you to visit our website and to look at those very interesting panel discussions. So here I will not get into details. However, I have to touch upon some very important points which came out from the panel discussions. As you may recall, a few minutes ago, I said that there are two very important events we have to keep in mind. The first one is the Rio+20 event that took place last June 2012, where world leaders made a commitment to promote sustainable development, integrating the social, economic, and environmental dimensions on an equal footing. The post-2015 development agenda is expected to guide global efforts to realize this commitment. And this provides a unique opportunity to strengthen the social dimension of sustainable development. However, There was a shared sense that the social dimension of sustainable development has been largely neglected. The social dimension has been often understood as a cross-cutting issue, and we need to establish a strong standalone social pillar in order to address the centrality of social relations, social institutions, and behaviors. It will allow, increase attention to structural causes of poverty and inequality. Second, social inclusion has been identified as one of the priority areas to be included in the post-2015 development agenda, together with inequality, empowerment and participation, social protection, productive employment, and decent work. There is a need to structure them in a meaningful way so that they do not remain separate and competing priorities. And third, we needed to identify potential approaches to monitoring progress in these areas. For example, what indicators and data should be used to monitor progress towards decent work, reduction in inequality, and empowerment of people? How to ensure monitoring process to be inclusive and participatory so that governments, civil society, academia, NGOs, and the most vulnerable can be, in a way, contributing to it. So, dear colleagues and participants, I understand that one of the specific objectives of this workshop is to review existing methodologies and index to assess social inclusion and social transformation. From our perspective, the division perspective, the Division for Social Policy and Development of this department, there is a need to include empowerment as a measure of social inclusion. I believe that empowerment of people is emerging as a central theme in development discourse. Empowerment is a critical building block to achieve the core objectives of social development, that is, reduction of extreme poverty, promotion of employment and decent work, and last but not least, social integration. Questions to be asked are: how empowerment can be measured and standardized across broad contexts, or how empowerment and participation can assess the impact of inclusive policies. With regard to the involvement of different stakeholders in policy making, this is an area of great concern for our division. For all social groups, ensuring their participation in policy-making processes as key stakeholders is an ongoing challenge. Our question is, how do we measure success of the involvement of disadvantaged social groups, in particular persons with disabilities or indigenous peoples? How public policies successfully address the needs and concerns of particular groups? Ladies and gentlemen, we, the social development community, have an important role to play. We need to develop a strong conceptual framework based on evidence. And such evidence-based policy making requires enhanced compilation of concrete examples of what worked and what did not work. For example, we can draw lessons from good practices, but also from failed policies and practices. It is my hope that this workshop will produce dynamic discussions and tangible results, because, you see, these results will be among the important contributions to the 52nd session of the Commission for Social Development next February here in New York. Next February, the Commission is expected to adopt a resolution on empowerment, which could have a huge impact on the lives of people, particularly those who are most vulnerable. Well, I wish you all successful deliberations, and I look forward to receiving the outcomes of this workshop, and I thank you very much.